when you've gone through some of the stuff that we've gone through and come out on top and are still a positive person, like it just feels much easier.
Yeah.
Life feels a little
100%.
easier when you go through that.
Welcome to That's Term Good. I'm Janelle Ball, and I'm excited to bring you thought-provoking conversations about biologics, specialty medications, treatments, and so much more. I'll be chatting with some amazing guests about access, affordability, and advocacy. You're really going to enjoy this show. Welcome to That's Term Good. Today, my guests are Jillian and Jeremy Hinskton. They are artists and advocates behind HS Warrior Stories, a platform raising awareness and building community for people living with hidradenitis suppurativa. Welcome, you two. Thank you all for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure to be here.
Super happy to be here.
Yes, I'm excited to chat with you both. I had the pleasure of meeting you at the ACID conference, and it was just such a great conversation meeting you both and being able to just experience that conference in general. It was just absolutely mind-blowing and amazing. But I loved how open you both were sharing your story. And I'm so excited to share that with everyone and talk about all the amazing things that you guys have going on as artists and, just advocates. I think advocacy in general, is so important. And especially as just being in this space, being able to help other people and really help them navigate life issues and things that are happening. And, it's amazing thing to see. So I'd love to hear your story, Jeremy, but also Jillian, your side. I think you guys give such a good perspective. I think a lot of times when we're navigating going to medical offices with family members, it can be, you don't get to hear that side of the story. So it's really exciting to be able to hear that from you, Jillian, your side of the story. But I'm going to let you guys tell me a little bit about, your background and your story.
Sure. Do you want to start?
No. Spotlight's on you, my HS love.
So, I'm a photographer, videographer, audio engineer, a bunch of things, artist, musician. And there was a point where, I'd been diagnosed with HS. And at the time when I was diagnosed, I didn't care. I felt like a typical dude. It wasn't at the point where it was detrimental. I thought it was a ingrown hair, like a little boil that started on my waist, maybe one little one in my armpit. And, I didn't take it very seriously at the time. I was just focused on just my life, my career, music, everything like that. And then it took a turn in 2020.
Yeah.
We started our travel channel and we sold almost all of our belongings to just travel the world and go from country to country, not have any home base. And our third country that we went to on this journey was Brazil. And that journey was really difficult because I was on Humira at the time and you have to keep that cold. So, we traveled to Mexico for a few months and we had a month's supply. And I was looking online like, hey, can we still get Humira in Mexico? Our next stop was Brazil. Can we get it in Brazil? Everywhere I saw said that you could get it. And so I'm sitting here thinking, okay, cool. I've got all my crafts and everything that I do. I can still do everything. I can get my medicines, but then I couldn't get my medicines. In Mexico, it was extremely difficult. And we said, oh, you know what? Our next stop was Brazil. In Brazil, I'll get it. And it was impossible to get. And about a month and a half through our Brazil trip is when I started to be bedridden for 9 months. And that was crushing. I lost the ability to play my guitar, to do my audio engineering, to do my photography. I lost myself, and almost in the literal sense, if it wasn't for her being the caregiver that she is and being so focused on finding out everything she could find out about HS and how to help us. If it wasn't for that, we might not be even here to talk about it. So it was big. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
So what was the experience like?
What was the experience like?
Yeah, when you first got diagnosed.
When I first got diagnosed, it was by accident. I was just visiting the doctor, my normal doctor, to get refills on my asthma medication. And I had trouble sitting down in the chair because I had a big one right on my waist. And the nurse that, comes in and checks your blood pressure before you see the doctor and, asks all the questions, she saw that it was very difficult for me to sit down, and I was kind of like this, leaned back, not trying to put pressure on my waist. And she was like, "What's going on?" And I told her and showed her, and she goes, "Oh, you have HS." And I was like, "Okay." That was when I felt like the typical dude, whatever that is. Can I get my medicine and go home? And that was that. That was like the accidental diagnosis. But then when I left San Diego, this was in San Diego, and I moved in with Ninja in Seattle, that was when things got really bad. Like I had a spout where I was about a week on the couch and couldn't take my shirt off, put a shirt on, like I couldn't move. And that's when I went to the doctor and for that and actually got the official diagnosis. And
that was about 10 years ago.
10 years ago. And even then, I don't think I realized how important or how impactful this was going to be. Yeah, I had a problem for a week, but after that, it was like it kind of started to go away, just like it had been. So I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. We started the typical, doxycycline and the topicals and, all that stuff and didn't work. But getting diagnosed for me was just kind of like a non-event. Like I just didn't care about HS and what it actually did until it hit me so bad that it was like, whoa, like this is for real, for real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I think when you were diagnosed, when the nurse told you, you were, like you said, a young adult, young male. At that point, it was so insignificant. Of course it hurt, but at that point, he's approaching stage 1, right? Or stage 1.
Yeah, it was one every now and then.
Yeah, every now and then. So, he, as he mentioned, just didn't think about it. But then the year he and I got together, reconnected in 2015, it started coming on strong, his HS. And he quickly progressed to stage 2 and 3 within a year. And he's been living stage 3 since then. So it's been a matter of getting really smart. You had mentioned about from a caretaker's perspective, I feel fortunate in that we've done this journey together. And since he was diagnosed the year we got together, I've been part of learning about the disease with him. So I feel very much ownership myself of how can we navigate this, something that has no cure, something that's causing significant impact in our lives, from our ability to be able to do basic things, to plan things, because you just never know. How do
and diet.
And diet, right?
It changed so much.
Yeah. So in my role, of course, I wanted to know everything I could about HS. And at that time, 10 years ago, it was so much less information. People weren't talking about it. There weren't the number of these influencers and other people around the world sharing. It was very isolating. And you were lucky, frankly, if you had a doctor that knew what HS was, much less a protocol on how to treat it, since there isn't a consistent one for every patient. So yeah, it's been a journey over the past 10 years, but I'm grateful to have been alongside with Jeremy throughout, and feel very strongly as a result of our story and the situation that he went through and the loss of his self-identity, mental health tanked. We feel so strongly now about advocacy for so many reasons, but the primary one is to make sure that anyone that's ever felt like that when they're going through a hard time, one, realizes that they're not alone, but two, that there's a way through it. And so that to me gives me personal joy and fulfillment.
And real quick, it's been very beneficial to have her here from the start, like from when it was just one little lump, a month at a time, to full blown stage 3 bedridden. Like she has seen the entire progression. So that's helps her as well as a caretaker and as somebody that's thirsty for knowledge and trying to figure out how to help, seeing that growth and seeing everything.
It has been. And my background is, I worked in corporate for most of my life at the Boeing company as a chief of staff. And then I was offered a position at the Department of Defense, supporting the Secretary of Defense for a couple of years as director of operations. So my skill set is in how things work efficiently and properly. And when they don't, it really gets to my core. Anything in my life, inefficiency gets to my core. And so in addition to that learning curve, as part of that learning curve has been the opportunities that my my background have kind of instilled in my brain to identify how many things are broken, or I should say in a more positive way, opportunities to improve from a legislative perspective. I mean, we're talking
Big
about
time.
big change is
Mhm.
necessary. There isn't
Yeah.
one simple solution
Mhm.
that's going to fix, I won't say this problem, but won't be able to create an environment such that, one, we can get consistent diagnosis. We have doctors that know which HS are. We have insurance companies that have a bunch of actions, including roles that you're familiar with in the prior authorization section. So like in my mind, I'm thinking of all the holes in areas where there's opportunity. And my background is such that I want to go tackle those from a large scale perspective. So that's kind of where going forward with our advocacy. Of course, Warrior Stories, which started off as a personal project for us, which now we're evolving into a more focused full-time project going forward in 2026. But also, how can I use my leadership skills to affect big change? And that's where I feel like I can add a lot of value to the community.
Yeah. So it sounds like there was a lot of positive, I guess, effects on how it impacted you, Jillian. Were there any other like struggles that you were dealing with?
100%.
And what was that like?
Yeah.
Seeing him struggling.
So absolutely don't want to paint a picture of, seeing through rose-colored glasses. The perspective that I have now is built on 10 years of some pretty tough times, to be quite honest. I mean, to see the person that you love the most in a position where they're so uncomfortable, and as a fixer and as someone that's used to having plan A, B, C, and not being able to do those things, not being able to take on any of that pain, not being able to say, okay, I found this doctor that has this solution. There is no cure. So what can I do to make you more comfortable?
It was difficult.
And it was difficult because we were in the early stages of our relationship. We had some great times, and this came on pretty quickly. So it has been, I don't want to say overshadowing our relationship, but it's been part of the journey, and he's worth it. I'd do anything for this guy. 100%. I'd meet him and marry him any day. He's my number one, knowing that he has HS. It was very difficult, to answer your question, to figure out how to navigate a situation that you can't solve on your own. So in terms of how did we do that? It's like, you just have to mentally understand and architect a life that you can live with those parameters, instead of fighting and being angry and upset about things that you can't change. How do we architect a life that we love with the situation that we have? And that's how we've lived every day. And yes, sometimes plans cancel. We traveled to Iceland. The very first day we got there, he had a flare so bad we couldn't do anything.
I was laying in the back seat, like as soon as we got to Iceland, like I'm laying in the back seat because I can't sit.
Yeah.
It
was awful. And there's countless examples like that over the years. So yeah, there's been difficulty, but he's my person, and I wouldn't ever change any of that.
And she's been extremely humble and modest, but she had to go through so much. And she was exhausted all the time. Not all the time, but like
a lot.
She cooked. I don't cook at all, like at all. I cook ramen, top ramen.
Well, 100% like bachelor dude.
That's I don't like getting my fingers in like raw food. Anything. So she's always been the one that cooks. And when I first started to really get bad, she's reading up on everything, and she found the AIP paleo diet, right? Oh my God, is that a restrictive diet?
Very.
I mean, like now you're reading the ingredients of everything and you almost can't eat anything. So now not only is she just cooking all the time, but now she's having to figure out what can I cook and figure out all new ways how to do everything, on top of having to take care of dogs, because we were living with her mom at the time. Like we had just transitioned to not having a home base. And then I got hit with this so bad. So we moved in with her mom temporarily. So she's taking care of me, cleaning up the house, cooking weird, crazy stuff, trying to figure out how to keep it together, walking the dogs, not taking care of her own self. Like she's just so focused on everything else. And I'm sure you can understand how that just wears on you, on top of seeing the person that you love be absolutely miserable. Like all of that, I can't even imagine that. That's partially one of the reasons why I had those dark thoughts, is because, every day she's asking, How are you feeling today? How's this? And it gets
Mhm.
frustrating because it doesn't change. I always feel bad.
Mm.
And I didn't want her to see me like that. I didn't want her to have to dry me off getting out of the bathtub or help me get out of the bathtub and everything. It was just so incredibly difficult.
We made it
Yeah.
through.
We made it. And a lot of positive came out of that because we made it.
Yeah, and it
Mhm.
was a learning process for us both. I mean, it was figuring out, what does caretaker mean even? I mean, the word, of course, everybody knows, but when you're in that situation, it's a lot different. And for whatever reason, I was fortunate enough to be blessed to not have any, knock on wood, medical things. I've been
Mhm.
healthy as a horse my entire life. Rarely ever got sick, very active, I just do a lot. I like being outdoors. So when this came, it was like, whoa, I'm not used to anything like this. Not
Mhm.
again, I'm fortunate that I haven't had anything. So this was a pretty drastic change. And
Yeah.
there's been a lot of learning along the way from a caretaker perspective. And one of those things that I look forward to continuing to advocate about for caretakers is, yes, of course, whomever has the HS is priority, but you have to take care of yourself, because you're not going to
Mhm.
do anybody any good if you're so depleted and you're so worn out and exhausted that you can't even mentally take care of your own self. So I
Yeah.
learned the hard way, and I hope other people don't.
And real
Yeah.
quick, I just wanted to add too, like one thing that just I thought of because we were talking about the AIP paleo and stuff like that. Well, those kind of things are a little bit easier to do when you're in this country, like
Mm.
you can find the ingredients you want. When we were in Brazil, that was very different. And that was the start of me not being able to move at all.
Yeah.
And so she's
Mm.
taking care of two pit bulls in a country that we've never been to. We don't speak Portuguese. We didn't have a car. In order to get to the nearest market, we had to walk about a mile
Uphill.
up a giant hill with stairs built by the ancient Aztecs.
And carry their groceries
And
back.
it was nutty.
Wow.
So, I mean, the house that we were house sitting at was basically like a little jungle. You
Yeah.
had to do so much around that
Just to
house.
live.
That wasn't just
Mhm.
like, here, oh, we got to do some chores
Yeah.
here in our house.
It was intense.
So, this is just a testament to how strong she is. Like, she
Thank
had
you,
to do
baby.
all that by herself.
Thank you.
I was
Mm.
literally a lump, not literally, but figuratively, a lump on the couch for a month and a
Wow.
half while she did everything. I mean, to get the coconut water for the dogs, they needed to be fed a special diet. You don't
Mm.
just go buy coconut water there. You get coconuts
You have to
delivered
crack them.
in a wheelbarrow, and she's got a machete cracking coconuts
No lie.
to
Oh
feed
my
the dogs.
No joke, Janelle. This is 100%
I mean, we've
true.
got it on our travel channel, our
Mhm.
YouTube
Yeah.
travel channel. We have a whole Brazil series where actually I talk about trying to find HS. I went to one of the biggest dermatologists in the little area that we were at. Luckily, we had some help from some powerful people down there. But it was insane. We have a whole series about being in Brazil and what it was like. And you'll see her chopping coconuts with a machete to feed the damn dogs. It's crazy.
You do
That
what you
is
got to do
wild.
to take care of
Yeah.
things.
Strong woman.
We
I
do
feel
what
like
we
that
have to
is-
do to take care of things.
Yes, it's such a huge testament to your relationship and just to marriage in general. I think there's a lot of times, and I hate to say it, that so many people kind of give up. When something happens, when there's, something serious happens, then somebody can't handle it
Yep.
and they decide, I'm not going to continue this, and
Yeah.
and kind of walk away. And so, to your point, Jillian, I think it's definitely important to prioritize your mental health as well,
Mhm.
because that's what can help you in your relationship. And I love how you put that, and especially advocating for the caregivers as well, because that it's so important.
It is, and it feels selfish, so I don't think it's
Mhm.
talked about enough. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I didn't want to forget to say, it feels like, how dare you want to take care of yourself? Look at what he's going through. Like,
Mhm.
that's my mentality, but that's genetically how I'm programmed.
Mhm.
If
Two things
other,
can be true at the same time.
yeah,
Yeah.
go.
I can be having a terrible time, the worst time of my life. She can also be extremely stressed out by trying to take care of
Mhm.
it. So both are true, both are
I
definitely
agree.
true.
I'm the same way though too, because I would definitely be taking care of my family before I take care of myself. And
Mhm.
and I'm sure most families, even with like kids, you put your kids before yourself.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
it's generally how that works. And
Yep.
so unfortunately, it is something that you do have to remind each other of.
Yeah.
But I love that. I love what you have been able to learn and grow from so that you can help others in the same situations.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And the thing is, like, we both have gone through a lot in our lives. We've had some crazy experiences. And those are the things that allow that to happen, this not giving up. When you've
Mhm.
gone through some of the stuff that we've gone through and come out on top and are still a positive person, like, it just feels much easier.
Yeah.
Life feels a little
100%.
easier when you go through that and understand, like,
Mhm.
okay, we've had this
Yeah.
experience. So I can only hope that everyone can have that, but it's not something that comes at the drop of a dime, or it's not out there everywhere, because sometimes people don't understand these things. They've never experienced it. If you're young and you don't have this kind of life experience, I can understand how some people are like, look, they give up, they don't know what to do. There's been times where we didn't have the option to just give up,
Mhm.
so going through those things have molded us basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's partly why the advocacy feels so good. I mean, we didn't wake up one day and decide we're going to be HS advocates,
No.
right? It's been an evolution of the experiences learned and gained over these years. It's almost like we can't not, knowing that we have such knowledge that could help people.
Mhm.
And it's so personal to us because we live this every day. It's a natural fit. And in terms of the lifestyle we have, my background and my corporate experience, when we shifted to doing our own businesses, which has now been going on 5 years on our own, which feels great, right? Because it's not easy to be a content creator and run your own life, be your own
Mhm.
boss, and have 25 jobs at any given day.
You
Those
got that
things.
right.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
You know the deal, right? So
It's a grind.
those things, one of those things being HS advocacy, that feels really good because we have changed from a lifestyle of what used to be socially normal, from going to a 9 to 5 job and doing all the things, to genuinely architecting the life that we love and enjoy. And one of those things, a big part of our life, is HS advocacy. So for that,
Mhm.
we're very grateful to be in the position that we're in today.
Yes, I love that. Okay, I want to hear about HS warrior stories, but the biologic coordinator in me is also wanting to know about, you were saying when you were in Brazil and you had read that you were able to get your medication there and then you weren't able to get it. I'm so curious, why weren't you able to get it, and like
I can
how?
take this one, or do you want
Yeah,
to?
go for
The
it. Go for
short
it.
story is the Brazilian government does not do favors for non-Brazilian visitors in their country for such an expensive medication.
Well, they do. It's just an extremely
Rare
difficult process to
process
navigate.
to navigate, which would require more time than we were going to be there just to get the drug.
Mhm.
So we, in terms of looking to see if it were available, simply went online. Going
Mhm.
forward, in hindsight, we would have called a doctor or perhaps had some solidified plan. But the publicly available command media made us think, oh, okay, I know what to do and I'm very resourceful, as is my
Mhm.
husband. We'll be able to get it. And that just was not the case. So do you have
But
more to add on the kind of
so
background on it?
yeah,
Mhm.
and so before Brazil, we were in Mexico for 3 months in
Mhm.
Progresso, and there we also found that we could get it. And so we're going to be in Mexico for 3 months. Insurance only allowed me to get a 1 month supply, so we went down there with
Mhm.
1 month supply. Now the total we were going to be gone from the country was 6 months, 3 in Mexico, 3 in Brazil, and I only had a 1 month supply of Humira. So
Mm.
it was difficult, and in hindsight it was like, okay, we should have figured this out a little bit better or done something differently. But in Mexico we could have actually gotten it. We would have had to pay out of pocket and it would have been pretty
Very,
expensive,
very
like
expensive.
still cheaper than the
Yeah.
States, because things tend to be a little bit cheaper in Mexico, but still it would have been out of pocket and we wouldn't have been able to get enough to last that 5 more months. So Mexico would have been easier to get, but a lot more expensive. But Brazil, without being a citizen there, even having the person that took us to, like, the one of the most well-known and respected dermatologists, she was the owner of Filos de Sil, which is a charity that helps take inner city kids and teach them and get them off the streets and stuff like that. She's a very prominent person in this city.
Mhm.
So she had connections. And even with the connections and everything that we had going for us, there was
Mhm.
no way for us to get it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it would have taken months and months for us to go through all the paperwork. It was almost
Yeah.
impossible at that time.
Yeah. And then because he had been off it so long, when we got him back from the States home, his body built up antibodies and it didn't work anymore. So then it was like, okay,
Wow.
let's have to figure out what does work. And you know
Mhm.
the deal there, because there isn't a consistent protocol or treatment plan for HS. It's like one big mystery on what is
Mhm.
it that's going to work.
What am I, or not, not necessarily what's going to work, but at that time, Cosentyx wasn't FDA approved for HS. The only thing that was approved was Humira. So if that's not working, then what do you do?
Right.
Right.
So I mean, luckily, unluckily, it's like a double-edged sword. Having HS comes with comorbidities,
Mhm.
it can come with comorbidities. And because of this, I started to develop RA markers. And
Rheumatoid arthritis.
because of that, the rheumatologist was like, well, look, since you've got these, and we can start giving you infusions for your HS, but not necessarily say it's for the HS. And the insurance company
Mm.
approved that. So, but yeah, anyways,
Yeah.
getting back to the Brazil, yeah, that's why it was pretty much impossible to get. We just didn't do enough research.
We
Yeah.
just the website. It wasn't as easy as just what we
Mhm.
Yeah.
what we did. Yeah.
So there's definitely, if anybody is traveling and they are taking a biologic or especially medication, definitely work with your insurance and find out what you can do in that time frame so that you can make sure you can get your medication. That is rough. That is really wild. I was so curious. I'm like, wait, why couldn't you get it? I want to know.
Yeah.
Regulations in different countries, now if
Yeah.
Mexico, if you're traveling to a place like Mexico where, you can get not almost anything, but you can get a lot of things that you can't get here with a prescription. If your budget allows for it, then you can get Humira or
Mhm.
something like that there. It just, for us, the
Did-
budget didn't work. Like that was our life, was just living.
Mhm.
We didn't have jobs at the time. Our job was YouTube.
Well,
So-
we were, I just left a 6-figure job to try to be content creators. You go from like super cush, cozy life, going anywhere you want when doing whatever, to zero.
yeah.
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 So, paying thousands of dollars every week for or every other week for a biweekly injection wasn't feasible.
Yeah. Did you have a international insurance plan?
No. We
No?
had
Okay.
no.
Wait, didn't we get?
We had like a safety wing or something
Mm.
like that. So yes, we had insurance. We
Okay.
had picked a plan, but to cover a biologic expensive like that, it
No
was
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
It was for
wild.
like if you had some kind of hospital visit that you had to go to, or you need, an antibiotic or something, there was just
Yeah.
like things like that.
Not
They're not
to
going to
manage.
cover
Yeah.
something
Right.
like a biologic. No
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That makes sense. So, okay, tell me a little bit about the HS Warrior stories and how that came about.
Yeah. So warrior stories. This goes back to when I was bedridden for almost 9 months. I completely lost myself. We were very spontaneous
Yeah.
people. Like at the drop of a dime, we'd be out shooting the sunset or shooting a Milky Way in the middle of the night or traveling. Or I would just go into the studio, work on music. All the things that I loved to do were taken from me. I couldn't move. So by the time, I weighed 250 pounds, after 9 months of being in the bed, I dropped down to 167 pounds. I was like a skeleton. It was
bad.
it was bad.
Yeah. He looked really unhealthy.
Yeah.
Mm.
So finally, when I was able to get up and feel good, actually, before I get to that point, in the midst of the worst times is when I started to find all the support groups on Facebook and stuff like that. There's so many groups,
Mm.
right? So I start going in there while I'm having this rough time and trying to see what can I do. And what I found was overwhelming sorrow and grief in these groups of people just miserable, and there's nothing anyone can do. And it got to a point where I had to unfollow so many groups because every time I started to see it, I started to feel that grief and it just brought me down more.
Yeah.
I've never known anxiety or depression in my entire life until that time. And
Wow.
so seeing all that, it was just gut wrenching.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to now, I'm getting out of bed. I have physical therapy. I'm building all my muscles back that had atrophied.
Mhm.
And we started to get back to our travel channel and our road trips and stuff. Our first one was a road trip, right?
It was
It was
close
easy.
to home. We could get home if we needed to. We didn't want to travel internationally while he was just getting his strength back.
So all of that was starting to be planned. And we were like, coming out of this, starting to feel better and starting to be positive, and I can lift my camera again. I can play my guitar again. That's when we started to be like, we travel all the time, everywhere, anyways. So why don't we just everywhere we go interview an HS warrior in that area and let them tell their story? But not just tell their story, because everybody sees, okay, I've got flares, I'm miserable, my doctor sucks, or, I got surgery and that's great. Everybody sees those stories, but you don't see the warriors happy and passionate, typically. Not always. Today is a different day, but back then you didn't see that. So
they weren't even called warriors. I mean, I remember at the time
they were warriors. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's how we got warrior stories. But
I thought we made that up.
No, they were warriors. But so we were thinking, okay, we're traveling all the time. And in our travels, we always tried to find a charity we could work with to give back, because we've had amazing lives. We want to give back and help make the world better.
Right.
So we thought, instead of finding just any random charity like animals or giving food to, homeless people and stuff like that, which is commendable. We love doing that. But let's do something a little bit more personal and find warriors wherever we go. Let them tell their story. But instead of just telling their story, let's focus on your passions, because so many people need the inspiration to stay happy and to not lose themselves. And how do you do that? By showing people happy and showing people that are still living their life and doing what they love. When you lost all that, you value it a little bit more when you get it back. So we wanted to focus on that as well. So half of a warrior story is the upfront stuff. What are your resources like? What have you gone through? But then we switch gears into, what are your passions? What do you love to do?
And showing those.
And showing it, because I'm also a videographer and photographer. So I can mic up people and shoot the whole thing, but then we go out and show the person rollerblading or singing a song on the beach or cooking.
It's the best part.
Or like Glow doing her makeup tutorials and stuff like that. So we started to want to just show people loving what they do. And even though you have HS, you can't let it define you. Your passions define you. So you need to continue to do that. So that was how Warrior Stories was born.
Right. Because he's not, when I think about Jeremy doesn't want to be represented as, I'm Jeremy and I live with Hidradenitis Suppurativa. I'm Jeremy. I'm an ultimate artist. I do this, I do that. He's so much more.
And so is everybody else.
So is
with
everyone
HS,
else.
So that's what we wanted to show.
Yeah. And, back to reinforce Jeremy's point about the inspiration part. It's easy to say those words, but it's very personal to us because of the experience that he went through in bed. It was a very dark time, right? And it's back to the kind of earlier comment you mentioned about what was it like to go through some of these things. And I want to be honest and transparent and not make things out to be more fluffy than they are. So with regards to these stories, each person has gone through something on their own. Jeremy has gone through this horrible experience and being bedridden and all of that. He persevered. How we're living our passions and not letting HS define us is going and doing these warrior stories. We're living our passions. We want to see everybody else doing it and have others that are watching our stories be able to see them and say, okay, they went through a really hard time. Wow. He got through it. Look at, he's doing all of these things. She is doing all of these things. I'll be able to do things too.
Yeah.
And that's where we want to have people feel just, I can do things too. I am so much more than HS.
And it's funny, like listening to what she just said just made me realize that we're doing warrior stories and we want to be advocates and all that stuff. But the funny thing is, literally doing that is
our passion. We're living it.
It didn't even dawn on me that actually doing warrior stories, shooting video and stuff like that, making people happy, that is our passion. It's funny that I never really thought about it like that.
Welcome to my brain.
I love that. It's so inspiring. And I love how you say that. And you both say that HS does not define you.
Right.
And you're putting that into motion and helping others. How do you have those kind of conversations with people to help them understand that it does not define them? And how do you explain that to them?
Oh yeah. I think explaining it to them is just by relating to them by sharing stories and
Hmm.
listening. Because when I listen to somebody talk about it, like, I'm still part of all these groups and we go to different summits, like the one we saw you at in Detroit, the UCB one in Atlanta, talking with people face to face, hearing their stories, telling them your stories. You learn a lot of things. So we'll have conversations with people in real time there on the spot. And I think that really just helps people just relate, it's
Yeah.
relatable.
Hmm.
To reinforce what Jeremy just said there, that is so important because it's really, I'm very sensitive. I've lived a lot of years on this earth at this point, and words become meaningless when you start to hear them all the time and it's trite and lazy and people don't spend the time to provide enough context to really share how they feel about something. I think that
Hmm.
this is a little bit of a tangent, but it's relative. As humans, I just don't think we've advanced enough with our English language to articulate the way that we want to. So instead, we default to things that are easy because that's what people know, right? So one
Hmm.
of those statements could be HS doesn't define me. That's why we love to have the conversations with people to say, we know what you're going through.
Hmm.
How HS doesn't define us is, even though we're going through flares and Jeremy can't do this, that, or the other thing, we're traveling all over the world to do this so that we can show you we're living our passions.
Yeah.
How are you living yours?
And
Let's see it. And having that to accompany the
Yeah.
tagline, I think goes a long way into one, showing your originality, your vulnerability, your honesty, and having
Hmm.
people feel that same level of vulnerability to want to share with you and share with others because you've been brave enough to share your story.
and that's
Yeah.
another thing that I want to touch on. What she talks about is that, we're very inviting, I want to say, or not really
I love
inviting.
everybody. I hug
That's
people.
what I'm
I'm
saying.
welcoming,
We're outgoing and we have no problem talking to
Yeah.
anybody about anything at the drop of a dime. If you look at us, we're going to talk to you.
Mhm.
And not everybody is like that. So if we can coerce people to say something and have a conversation and then make them feel comfortable, then perhaps they're more comfortable to talk to somebody else. And it's just like a chain reaction. So
Hmm.
I think just the personalities that we bring to the table, I think can help elevate things because we're so easygoing and so just like, we'll talk to whoever, like
Mhm.
whatever. We don't have the shyness that a
Hmm.
lot of people tend to have.
Right.
So I think that's valuable when it comes to like just trying to get messages out
It
and get
is.
people to open up because
Hmm.
we also are extremely empathetic.
Yes.
So if we're talking with somebody and we see that they're shy, we instantly can feel that
Mhm.
and can know how we can make them feel
Hmm.
comfortable.
Yep.
And so I think those kind of things, it's just the type of people we are, just helps
Hmm.
bring that kind of stuff to the table.
I agree.
Yeah, I like that. And it's motivating, I think,
We hope.
especially when you guys are sharing these stories and you're able to tell others that, hey, you don't have to be in a depressive state where it's just like, oh, this is it. This is my life, and just kind of giving up. It's
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't want to forget about warrior stories. In addition to the story, the passions, we also have them, each one of the warriors share anything that's worked well for them. And as we
Mhm.
ramp up in 2026, we have now a website and we're starting to populate it both with past material and future. We're posting those things so we can say, Heidi in Buxos, Mexico, in the middle of the Yucatan Peninsula, has no access to medication and no
Mhm.
access to most of the things as Americans that we are blessed to have access to. Yet, what works for her is making green juice from local things that she gathers from her market. So,
Mhm.
other people may not be able to get access to the same things, or for whatever reason, they just want to try her green juice. Here it is. So, the
Wow.
point is, we're also sharing tips and tricks from people from around the world because HS doesn't have the standard protocol and treatment. Perhaps they'll see one of those things, especially natural things, and say, okay, I want to give that a try. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
wish that ultimately we had the solution and the fix to say, this is what you do. But because we're
Mhm.
not there, the best we can do as advocates is make sure that we understand the full landscape and point people in the direction correctly and not create extra work for them as patients through their experience.
And
Yeah.
also, we kind of, going forward with Warrior Stories, we were just having this conversation the other day. Like we're definitely going to get back to doing more Warrior Stories. And because before we were just always traveling on our own dime.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why it slowed down is, sometimes you're spending so much money doing all this stuff that it makes it hard. But we're trying to figure out now how to go forward in the future, what else we're going to do. And one of the things that really an idea that kind of sparked in my mind was I was on the HS Brotherhood podcast with Joey and Parrish and a bunch of other guys. I'm sure a lot of people have already heard about it if you're on social media. But in that big group, I think we had about 10 or 15 people in there, all guys. And it's awesome to have guys talking about emotional things. Like we had some deep conversations. But one of the guys that we talked to was in Nigeria. And I asked him, what are your resources like? Do you have anything there? And it was just like Haiti. There wasn't anything. They can't really get the biologics. They don't have anything. And hearing him say that and knowing that we're going to be going to Africa at some point for sure. And we want to do some warrior stories. But it made me think, why don't we also add doctors to that list? If we go interview him in Nigeria, maybe there's a local dermatologist somewhere in the area and we can maybe have an interview with them and say, do you know about HS and how are you treating it? What's it like? Not just bringing patients to the scene, but also bringing doctors around the world to the scene.
Right.
That's something that I haven't seen yet. I've seen a few doctors talk about it, but not like in this aspect.
No. And wouldn't it be amazing to find out that in a particular country, they're prescribing XYZ, which I know is dangerous, right, Janelle? Because it's not like you can just go get that in America. You have to follow all of our insurance and all the processes.
The people there might.
But the people there might get help that never knew about HS. It may be that there's some natural thing that they prescribe or, oh my gosh, I don't know what the answer is. But learning by going to these different places, getting all this information, I think will be invaluable, not just to the patients, but the medical community here in America.
Yeah. And abroad.
Yeah. It's very exciting to think about because then you start talking about how you impact big change. And that's what I'm all about, really. I want to start impacting big change.
Yeah. And you are. I mean, that's absolutely amazing. I feel like sometimes we get in our own bubble of this is only here in the US and people aren't struggling like we are in the US. And it really kind of puts it into perspective that there are so many people that don't have access to the medications that we have access to and the education, the knowledge and understanding as to what HS is and how to take care of yourself and how to treat it. There's so much information out there. And I love that you guys are on a global mission to help so many people and advocate and bring awareness and education to people all over the world. I mean, that is absolutely amazing.
We're trying to do what we can.
Absolutely. Yeah. Seriously, we genuinely are. It's exciting to me and it fuels me. It gets me very excited. It gets me kind of a little bit like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go to Congress and, preach.
I'm ready
I want to take on the insurance companies and figure out who's holding them accountable for these decisions,
I'm ready to do that like yesterday.
And the great thing is, I know, I can't take on every world problem, right? We have to identify and use our resources the right way. But as we ramp up our advocacy efforts for 2026, part of the work that we're doing now is doing outreach to these different organizations, HS Foundation, of course, all the nonprofits, the medical community people, different doctors and surgeons and things. And it's an opportunity to figure out, at least from my big systems thinking perspective, where are those holes? And I'm sure this has been done before. I'm sure that we have a start at it, but I don't know that there's any integration or work being done as a whole to affect it holistically versus HS being treated with individual Band-Aids, and individual Band-Aids on gaping wounds aren't going to solve the big picture, right? So that's where my mind is focused.
And doing all the travel and stuff, like we're planning a trip to Japan in a few months. And it's been a little bit since we've done the Warrior Stories because everything we did was on our own dime. Now we're currently trying to shop some of these organizations or, pharma companies or anybody that might want to sponsor a video or help support, because we're a 2-person team and everything comes from us, from video editing to shooting. Everything is on us.
Yep.
And so once the money starts to kind of dwindle down, it's like we're doing something so good and
Yeah.
so cool that you don't want to lose that. So we're currently trying to see if maybe somebody can help support. And
Yeah, I mean, I'm confident that that will happen. I'm very excited about partly, I mean, the challenge in the great way is my job to create the foundation and the context similar to some of it that I've shared today to be able to package it in a way that people are going to see the value and say, of course, we want to be part of this. So
yeah.
I'm excited about it. I am.
And I brought up
Yeah.
Japan because I want to do a warrior story in Japan. And I don't think I've seen or heard anybody from Japan with HS.
So
There's definitely people, there's gotta be.
let's ask Janelle. Janelle, do you have any knowledge of this? I wouldn't expect that you would, but do you just
I
in your random
don't.
reading and things like that? Do you have
Yeah.
Haven't
Okay.
heard anything.
So
I
when
mean,
I just
Japan
did-
is an amazing country. I would, I've been there before once, but yeah, I don't know anybody there.
when I do a quick search on what the landscape of HS is in Japan, and I'm just starting to get smart now, what's interesting is it's predominantly men,
Isn't that crazy?
which is interesting. And the rate, they have like less than 1% out of their total population. I want to say there's like less than 1% of that total population reported have HS. And they think that the numbers are skewed because culturally, it's so embarrassing to admit that you have those types of flares, if you will, on men who predominantly have it in Japan in their lower regions, that people aren't coming forward. So we know people exists. And when I do the math on what 10% of that population means, there are at least 40 or 50,000 people in Japan. So we're going to find a warrior. And isn't that an interesting way to be able to give that data back to doctors here and say, look at what we found?
Yeah.
Right.
Like having men be the predominant, I almost said benefactor, but
that's
predominantly men having HS is completely opposite from everything we've heard this entire time. It affects women like what 70% more than men or something like that. So to hear in this entire country it's men that are getting it more than women, that's very interesting. So we're hoping to find a warrior in Japan, and we're gonna have to reach out to all the organizations that we know and be like, hey, have you guys heard of anybody, or how can we find a warrior in Japan? Because I would love, we're going to spend 2 to 3 weeks out there.
Yeah.
So I hope we can find 1 or 2 people.
So if you guys know anybody.
Yeah. If you know anybody,
let us know. Anybody that's listening, we'll make sure we have your contact info in there so they can.
You.
I know you're number 1 in Japan on the podcast list.
Yeah.
Those, they're listening.
Yeah. I hope so. That'd be great.
I hope so.
That is amazing. I mean, you guys are just doing some amazing things right now. And, I really just honored that you guys have been able to share the story with me on this podcast, because, this is right up my alley. I love the passion that you have, and it's contagious. When you guys are passionate about speaking out and advocating for patients, that it gets contagious. And I think, and I hear from so many of our listeners too, that, they hear stuff and they're like, oh my gosh, that really got me excited. I want to do this and I want to do that. And, it's about taking action. It really is. And, and I recently just joined an HS coalition. And so like that has got me really excited to, okay, I don't have any clue. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to be the first person to say, I have no idea what to do or what to say when it comes to lobbying.
Is it the HS Is it the HS Coalition? So we're actually going to be trying to talk to somebody in that as well, because like when she mentioned about Congress and this whole issue with insurance and nobody governing them, like I am extremely passionate about that. Like I am fired up and I'm ready to just like.
I think you can tell how excited we are. When you see the
struggles, yes, when you see the struggles that people are dealing with when it comes to insurance and, and access, it's just
and lack of accountability.
Yes. It's absolutely frustrating.
They have beat me down so much to where like I can't even talk to them. Like,
and as the fixer, I'm like, let's go. I am ready.
I can't even talk. I'm
so ready.
If I get like an email or I mean, not an email, but a call or something, like I am not answering it. Cause as soon as I see that insurance company, I'm already like, I mean, just how much I fought to get absolutely nowhere. And then the disrespect to not even allow me to know who's telling me no. So I can try and figure out anything, I'm ready to be on this HS coalition and I want some butts.
Let's go.
Fired up. I know. I mean, and that's what it takes. It takes people that are passionate, that want to make a change and that want to create an impact. And, and you guys are right on that in that way. You're in that direction. And what you guys are doing currently, I think is absolutely amazing. If anybody is looking to find out about your stories or want to follow you on social media, we want to have that stuff linked as well. But can you tell us how they can find?
Easy. It's going to be really hard to remember, guys. JillianandJeremy.com/HS.
Yep.
That is our website. I think that is the index. A great starting point to get to everything else that we're doing there.
Yes. And at HS Warrior Stories for social medias. Yeah. And so easy. And if any of your listeners listen to this and want to do an in-person warrior story with us, wherever it is, you can get all the information from the website. You can send us an email and sign up for it, because we want to go anywhere to help you guys.
We have over 80 warriors that have requested stories around the world. And so we're going to continue to build that list and tackle all of them. Wouldn't it be amazing to have a warrior in every country? We haven't talked about that before, but what a cool goal.
It would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is. It's creating that awareness and helping others. I love it.
Thank you. I mean, thank you for providing a platform to talk about this.
Absolutely.
Kudos goes to you.
We're grateful for doing what you do. And we're honored that you would think of us to be on this show. Like, that means so much to us, because, we look at it like we're just two little people just trying to do what we can. We don't feel like we're anything special. There's so many people that are out there that are doing big things, that are posting constantly and showing everything, all the influencers. We're not doing that much. We're trying to do something a little bit bigger and a little bit different. So we really appreciate the love and the support that you've shown us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure talking to you both. And you guys are a lot of fun.
Love to hear that. Thank you.
Yes, I love it. I love the passion. So I definitely look forward to following you guys and hearing about your Japan trip and everything else that is coming. I'm really excited for it. And and if anybody is interested, definitely check out JillianandJeremy.com/HS.
All of our social media handles is at HS Warrior Stories.
Okay, perfect. And we will have that in the show notes as well. So thank you so much. And it was just so great talking to you guys.
Likewise, Janelle. Always a pleasure to see you.
And keep killing it on that podcast.
That's right.
Love it.
Number one podcast in America, baby.
We're getting there. Trying. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me and listening to That's Derm Good. You can expect new episodes of That's Derm Good every week. The podcast is available on your favorite app, including where you're listening right now. Subscribe to the podcast so you never miss a new episode. Bye.